there is news. Ian Rappaport of the NFL reporting, and I suspect there'll be 50 other reports to that same effect, and then a statement in about 5 minutes or less. Giants coach Pat Shurmur out after 2 seasons. This one was widely expected.
Yep.
Just like Freddie Kitchens, those are the 2 that we flagged last night. The expected firings, not a surprise. Silence from the organization becomes deafening, especially when you consider teams like the Lions, the Jets, the Falcons, making it clear their guys are back.
Yes.
When the Browns and the Giants don't do it, you know it's coming, and it comes for Pat Shurmur. Your reaction, Chris Sims?
Well, yeah, not shocked at all. Really not. I think there's 2 things that will just ring true to me, at least with Pat Shurmur. Of course, the results on the field were not good, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, and this was commonplace, Mike. I know you heard this from people up here too. He just didn't endear himself to the fan base and the people of the tri-state area, the Giants fans, everything that may be within press conferences and things like that. I think those are 2 big areas that he lost those battles, and that's why he's no longer the head coach of the New York Giants. And I think this was the right move. I think we had seen enough.
I knew it was going to be a failure from the get-go.
Did you?
I knew it was going to be a failure from the get-go. When Mike Holmgren, who was Shurmur's boss in Cleveland,
right,
as Shurmur was getting himself in position to be a head coach again, when Holmgren's take is Shurmur needs to calm down, when Mike Holmgren, of all people, is taking the position that anyone needs to calm down, that tells me that Shurmur is wound a little too tight.
Yes.
And I never interviewed him during his time with the Giants and all that. I think I did back when he was with the Browns, and I detected then if I recall correctly, he had like no sense of humor, no nonsense, which is fine if that's who you are. That's fine. I'm just saying it's a little, there's a point where it's not going to serve you well in the New York market, and it did not serve him well. 9-23 with the Giants, 9-23 with the Browns, and here's the key. Ben McAdoo was 13-15.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
and went to the playoffs
a few weeks ago,
and got fired during the season.
Right.
It was clear then that Shurmur's out. The real question is, where do the Giants go from here now that Shurmur is out? And GM Dave Gettleman, there was a suggestion yesterday from Jay Glazer of Fox that Gettleman is safe. You've raised the point that it could be an impediment to the Giants getting who they want as the head coach.
I think
the Giants have always done the strong GM.
Right.
Would they be inclined to maybe give a coach more power? Do they think maybe this model is outdated where you've got that strong GM who runs the team, that maybe you should have a strong coach who's got more say in how the team is run?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and I do think we're in an era more of, hey, head coaches want to run the team, or, of course, there's just a great relationship between the head coach and the GM, let's just say the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll, John Schneider, they work well together. Of course, Pete Carroll has a lot of say in what they do. John Schneider listens to what kind of players he wants, and he goes out and gets them, drafts them, signs them via free agency. I think that is an issue with the New York Giants. I know that. I don't have to think. I know that. I know enough people and coaches in the NFL that are just go, yeah, that's a great job. It's the New York Giants and all that, but I don't want it if Dave Gettleman's there. And listen, some of what Dave Gettleman's done is building that football team is questionable too. So I would not be shocked if they let him go some point here in the next, week or a few days, whenever it may be. And again, I just turned to a guy where I always think of the Giants. The Giants, there's a great relationship between the Maras and Bill Belichick. Gosh, Josh McDaniels is there with the New England Patriots. He groomed and was a part of a guy like Tom Brady. Daniel Jones has a lot of Tom Brady attributes to him. If anybody's watched the Giants this year, you can see Daniel Jones, there's some specialness about his play. I mean, he was a guy that I completely got wrong in my draft evaluation. I'll tell you that much. He's been awesome. That's a big-time name on your phone right there.
Quit looking at my phone. He does that all the time.
The big-time name calling him right now. Let me just say it. You almost one up my big-time name. I called me a few minutes ago. I'm turning my phone over just in case now. I look at that to be the Giants are run a lot like New England. I think that would make a lot of sense to me. And the other name I always hear with the Giants is Matt Rule down in Baylor. He did work with the Giants for a little bit. He's a Northeast guy. He understands the New York area, the media, everything that goes along with it there. And he's kind of a no-nonsense, real football coach. Those are the two names I hear a lot. And you know me, Mike. I'm more of a fan of Josh McDaniels than anybody else.
And, we talked earlier about Josh McDaniels being a candidate in Cleveland and a candidate in Carolina.
makes sense.
And last year, the Browns didn't interview Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
I think that there was some of that residue of what happened with the Colts that was causing people to shy away from McDaniels. And maybe now that we're 2 years removed, and maybe now that there's a sense that it's coming to an end in New England, maybe there's a sense that Steve Belichick is the heir to Bill Belichick, not Josh McDaniels, right? That maybe people think McDaniels will actually leave. I mean, the reality is this. He can't leave another team at the altar. You don't have to worry about Josh McDaniels telling you, sorry, I'm not coming. What you have to worry about, though, is him having regrets and following through if he doesn't really want the job, and then he's there and doesn't want to be there. And that's the one thing Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, always felt good about. It was better to find out Josh McDaniels wanted out before he was there, and then everybody's stuck. So I think that's the risk you have now. If he's not 100% sure and he takes one of these jobs, he's not going to leave you at the altar, but you may have some dysfunction if he decides it's just not for him. But I think that people are starting to get to the point where they're realizing that he is at some point going to make that jump. So maybe whether it's the Giants, the Browns, the Panthers, maybe we're the team he should jump to.
Yeah, well, and I think, one thing that probably Josh is going to learn and the NFL is going to learn that, this is a guy, again, too, that's just he's not going to do that again. He's not going to commit to anything until he knows this is really what I want to do. My family's all in. Josh has a lot of kids. He's got a wife that, they're very cohesive and work together. So I would only think he's going to entertain jobs and prospects that really make sense to him from here on out.
And keep this in mind. 2 years ago when the job was open with the Giants, they interviewed Eric Stutesville, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Patricia, Steve Wilkes, and Josh McDaniels. So they interviewed him 2 years ago. Now,
makes sense.
Institutionally, is that good or is that bad? Maybe they wanted him and he chose the Colts and he spurned the Colts. I don't know. They ended up with Pat Shurmur, but now's the opportunity to go back to that well and maybe bring in.
I had always heard that the Giants and Josh, it was close to happening. And there was just a few little things behind the scenes that, they couldn't see eye to eye on, and that's why the marriage never really happened. But I definitely know there was some serious flirting the first time around.
What do you think of the talent right now?
The talent of the Giants? Well, you have to be excited about the running back and the quarterback. The offensive line needs help. That's where I look at Dave Gettleman and go, okay, gave all that money to Nate Solder. Will Hernandez, a top of the second round pick out of UTEP. He hasn't been great. There's some other issues there. The Giants have some rebuilding to do. So that's where it's going to be important that they get a coach that either wants to work with Gettleman to improve the team, or they get a coach in there and you just clean house and you let the new head coach have a GM that they like and they can rebuild this thing. But there's a lot of areas. I mean, the secondary's not good. Linebackers aren't good. No pass rusher.
Here's the thing. When they won the Super Bowl to cap the 2007 and 2011 season, what were their biggest strengths?
Offensive, defensive line, right?
And what are their biggest weaknesses now?
Right there. You're exactly right, Mike. That's spot on. The only thing they got is some big people at defensive tackle, but you're right. They're not the Giants that we know, where whether it was my dad's era with Bill Parcells, where, the Giants are famous for going, we're big, we're bad, we're the New York Giants, we're big blue, we got big dudes up front, and you're going to have to fight us, and they don't have that right now.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.